Hi, welcome to BPTV. I'm your host, Andy Amrine, and this is one of our Handy Andy segments. And today, it's a little chilly. It's December, but we are showing you this new, absolutely amazing drainage product. This is called HydroBlock, and HydroBlock is something that I've been playing with now for about a year, and in 45 years of being in this industry, I have never in my life been so impressed with the product. So we thought we would do a segment on it. I have Ed Greiser here. He's the owner, the inventor of HydroBlock, and Ed, welcome to BPTV first.
Thank you.
Okay, now, question I've been wanting to ask for a year now. Where in the world did you come up with this idea?
I've been involved in water control now for probably about 30 years, and I've done quite a bit of traveling, and we had this genesis of an idea that we found over in Europe, and it was kind of a mess. Okay. And so we bought everything that was available, all the equipment we could find, brought it all back to Pittsburgh, started working with it, and then eventually threw out all that equipment and started over from scratch. And so what you have right here is what you get when you take all sorts of different recycled plastic, mix it all together, and generate a lot of things that really just look like noodles, and put them all together. And it's just a much better method for conveying water underground that doesn't clog up like traditional drainage systems do.
Well, I have to say the ugliest product I've ever sold, but the most interesting product I've ever sold. And I'm really looking forward to today doing a demonstration at a home here in Bethel Park and showing how this drainage problem, or how this drainage product can actually solve people's water problems and keep water out of their houses. So let's take a look and let's get our hands dirty. We're at the house here in Bethel Park, and I'm with Ed Greiser, the owner of HydroBlock. And the dilemma that we have with this house is that the back of the house floods. The back of the house floods in both corners of the house. So they have water that is coming from the neighbor's yard, a road up behind their house, and the hillside comes all the way down towards the house and is entering underneath the back patio into the corner of the house. But along with the water entering that corner of the house, we have the other corner of the house, which has the garage under it. And once again, they have water coming off the back hillside from the neighbors, from the streets behind it. And the water is also entering that corner of the house. So this particular job, we have water coming in both corners of the house, Ed. So with that being said, looking at the terrain, looking at the hillsides, looking at the house. Are you in agreement that yes, we have to protect the house in those areas? And where are you seeing that the lines, the track, and everything is going to be drawn to put in the HydroBlock?
We're going to follow the path of water down here, all around to that pine tree, and then extending around this way to pick up the other corner of the house.
Okay, so with that, we're picking up water as it comes down both hillsides onto the back. We'll have two different designs of the HydroBlock installed. That is going to be an underground gutter system that we're putting in that is going to protect this house from the flow of the water. So let's start by marking the yardway so we know where it is that we're going to be trenching and installing the HydroBlock. All right, Ed, we got the yard marked out. We ran our lines. We marked it with spray paint as far as where we're going to do. We're doing our line down around and towards one of the pine trees past the house. So we're pulling the water totally away from the house and down towards where it could dead end, and you're fine to have the water into the trees. Yeah, you could see a little bit of the landscaping that they're going to redo after the hydroblock is installed. They're going to be landscaping and bringing more dirt in to terrace the dirt away from the house towards the line. And then we have a secondary line that we're drawing around the back of the house and around the other corner. So with this, we're going to be capturing all the water coming off the hillside, off of the neighbors, and protecting it with the hydroblock and installing it around the house to keep the water away from the house.
I agree.
Agreed. Anything else to add?
The important point is this is a much better conduit for moving the water that doesn't clog up, that's easier to install, but you have to do the basics like making sure that you do have the surrounding soil sloping away from the house. Other than that, it's great. We make hydroblocks from all recycled plastic, and we use material that undoubtedly would be going to a landfill. Doesn't mean that it's bad plastic, it's just a plastic that's better served doing the work that we're in this project right now. It is a French drain that doesn't clog up. It's a much better conduit for working with the water. It is so much easier to install. It's a trench 2 inches wide by 9 inches deep. We've been working this for, it's probably going on 8 years right now. We are actually a local company. We manufacture here in Pennsylvania. When we first started making these boards, our first generation, they were beautiful. They were perfectly square. They were uniform color. They really were a lot more attractive than they are now. And then we found out by the uglier we make them, the better they work. By this current form, performs 164% better in terms of moving water than our original boards. So ugly is better for us. With a regular French drain, you would dig down 4 feet, and then you would put something called geotextile, which is supposed to filter the sediment from getting into the pipe. So you have a trench that is lined with a fabric membrane, and then you put pipe, and then you put aggregate. The last step in this process is you backfill with the regular soil. And what you'll do is you'll always leave a hump, because you know that everything is going to settle. So when the aggregate, the rocks that are around that pipe, they start to compress and they start to get closer to one another. And then the soil, the fines in the soil, come in and they get in between those rocks, and that's the start of the failure. Because number one, the water can't even get to the pipe, and number two, all those fines are free for momentarily to allow them to get inside the pipe and then eventually clog it up, and then no water moves at all. With hydroblocks, the compressive strength on it is 40,000 pounds a square foot, so it's stronger than the road surface. And since we only need to put it 3 inches below the surface, and the material doesn't crush, and there's an internal void space, meaning there's an open area inside that board of about 43%, it's much easier for the water just to run through these open spaces in the board than it would be to fight the surrounding soil, the clay, and everything else that's there. So it's just really farmer logic. The water just follows the path of least resistance, and we create a permanent path of least resistance with the hydroblocks board.
Okay, so hydroblock works more on water pressure, pipe is more on gravity, is that correct?
Right. This is water moves from high head pressure to low head pressure. And the reason we're not concerned about fall, in other words, having a pipe actually go downhill the way you would with a traditional French drain system, is because the water level, that is the head pressure, pushes down and pushes the water through the board. When you don't have that with the pipe.
Kathy, we're sitting here December 7th doing this. I mean, and I was purposely showing that, is it true that you could really do this at any time you really want, can't you?
Yes, you can, Andy. Yes.
Okay, well, is it better, harder to do it in the winter?
Not really. No.
It's just as long as you're not doing it in standing water in puddles or something. We could be doing this in spring, summer, fall, or this is a product that December 7th here, we could be doing this any time of year. And, the ease that is just amazing. I mean, we're running 300, 400 feet of hydroblock here today. We're going to be done in probably 3 hours or so.
At most.
To do this in regular piping, how long do you think that would take? 7
That's-
days, a week?
Oh, it's at least 4 times longer. Our job times are 1/4 the time of a regular French drain system, and total project cost is 1/3 that of a regular system. And when you combine with the fact that this isn't going to fail in between 1 and 7 years, it just makes so much more sense.
So regular 4-inch Sorin drain pipe or French drain pipe, corrugated pipe, what's the average life on it?
Anywhere from 1 to 7 years.
Okay,
Total.
and then it's going to fail, clog, and crush.
Right, exactly.
Okay, and do you care to throw a timeline and how long Hydroblock's going to last?
Well, we're running at 12 years right now, and we haven't had a failure yet. We've had this tested by independent labs on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean, and they've actually quantified and said that this is a geotextile that conveys water, and there is a real-life term. It's called a Tergazzi filter, and that's why it does not clog up and fail.
Okay, now the history behind Hydroblock, correct me here, but you started more of industrial, commercial type of stuff. So here we are in a homeowner's backyard. This has to be a pretty big change for you from where you started the company.
All of our work up to this point has been industrial. In other words, we've always done a lot of sports, golf courses, residential like this, but you're our first retail application. We do gas pipelines, we do solar pipeline fields over in England, underneath railroads, and underneath their highways for all of their underdrains.
So it's safe to say this is an international product now that you are shipping this multiple locations and countries.
That's true. It's maybe new to this market, but it's certainly not new in existence and in the application.
Probably the biggest thing that I get from homeowners like this or other consumers that are looking at the product itself is it's almost too good to be true. And the old adage that if it's too good to be true, it probably is. That's not necessarily the case here, though, with Hydroblock.
No, not at all. It was supposed to be simple. The whole process was supposed to be simple. The magic is really in the way that we make those boards. That's the hard part. That's been done for you.
And you were saying golf courses. You're also doing sports fields, football fields, soccer fields, baseball fields?
Soccer fields, all of the underdrains for it as well. Artificial turf as well as natural turf.
Okay. Any other areas that you're thinking that maybe we should be explaining? We're doing sports teams, we're doing highway construction, gas well sites. What are some of the areas we're missing yet? How about planting trees or damming rivers?
Well, a couple things there. Over in Europe, they use Hydroblocks for their green roofs because you can grow material directly on it without soil. We also now are using this to filter all the storm water that runs through ditch lines and in catch basins, and that's something that our EPA has made a mandate that you absolutely cannot move sediment anywhere. So this is just a great application for a piece of material that doesn't need to be refreshed the way anything else would be. In other words, you put it in the ground once and that's it.
Well, how about if we grab a couple sample pieces and let's take an up-close look at what Hydroblock and maybe some of the boxes and other material that you have. Sure. All right, Ed, we got three samples of different products that Hydroblock makes. One, of course, is just the regular board. That comes in 40-inch boards, 8-foot boards, but you also have transition boxes. So how about starting by, I'll just hand you the mic, and then you could tell me what this board is, how it's made, and go from there.
Okay. This is our standard civil grade Hydroblocks board, and you can see that it is not very attractive, step one. The second thing is it's made of all thermoplastics. When we got started with this, the first thing we did was we had it tested to make sure that doesn't leach any BPAs. When we manufacture this product, we don't use any hazardous materials, no chemicals, no glues or anything like that. It's just the plastic. So we, again, we had that tested repeatedly by third parties to make sure that it is safe. The irregular weave of these noodles in here is really what makes this work, because it creates space in between those noodles, and that's what we call the void space, and that's where the water moves from end to end. If you would have this board sitting vertically, horizontally, it would move water at 14.25 gallons a minute per meter. So that's faster than the soil can percolate to the board. So we've removed the drainage method as a design consideration. Now, these boards come in 40 inches, or they also come in an 8-foot length. For the homeowner, the 40-inch board seems to be just about right, because you can throw them in the trunk of your car. Now, this is a transition box, which is really this same Hydroblocks board put together. And you would use this, you can see the piece of solid pipe coming out the side. You would use this board right here when you wanted to transition to your standard storm sewer for your a regular solid pipe. In other words, if you would have all of the collectors coming into there, you would simply butt the board up against like that. The water would go into that transition box and it would come out the other end, and then you could pipe it to your storm sewers. Now this right here, this is our stormwater attenuation box. There is a new regulation, well actually it's been around for quite some time, and basically it means that the homeowner or any property owner is going to mitigate all of his own stormwater. So what we do is these are buried about a foot below the surface of the ground, and this pipe right here would be connected to the downspouts from your gutters. The water goes into here, and it stays inside this box, which is hollow, and stays in there until the surrounding soil dries out enough where it can accept that water. So what you've done is you've captured all of your storm water, and you're doing the right thing with it, which is not send it down to overwhelm our storm sewers. You're keeping it in your yard, which waters your grass, and more importantly, it'll eventually drop down into the aquifer, and that's the goal of all of these new stormwater regulations, is to keep the rainwater where it should be.
Okay, well, a couple questions, and like the demonstration we're doing today in the yard and so forth, as we're ending the Hydroblock in the yard itself, do we need a box, or do we just end the board and it just is done and finished?
For this application, everything is running downhill, and what would probably the best thing to do is what we're doing is you're just going to let the board terminate right there, and it'll move the water down and out into the yard. We're not creating another problem. We're not sending it into someone's basement. We're not sending it running down into the street. The surrounding soil will allow the water to perk back into it.
Okay, now on some instances where maybe it is moving so much water that you're afraid that it's too much for a single board to handle, is it advisable, if you're working in fresh springs or high volume of water, what do you do, just stack boards together?
You would put two of these together. The rule of thumb is this is the equivalent of a 4-inch pipe. So if you have a higher volume of rainwater or stormwater, then you would simply put another board right beside it. You would we call that sistering another board right on top of it, and then you would be able to handle that higher volume of rainfall.
Can you put more together? Can you do 3 boards, 4 boards?
We've done all the way up to 4.
Okay. And 4 boards would be equivalent to, what, a 16-inch piece of pipe?
A 16-inch pipe, yeah.
That's a lot of water.
It is a lot of water,
now,
yes.
On an 8-foot box like this, a downspout, a homeowner that has a very, very short, like in a city setting, an urban setting, you have such a small yard, you really only have 8 feet or so of yard. So is it better to use these blocks and the downspout empties directly into here instead of having it run into panels?
Yes, that would make a whole lot more sense. And what you can do is, if there is a set of calculations that we're happy to help you with, that our DEP provided, which shows you how much water you have to mitigate based on your impervious surface. And what they're saying is, if you have a paved driveway or if the surface area of your roof is such, then you have to contain a certain percentage of that rainwater. So based on those calculations, we can tell you just how many of these you would need to put underground.
So you can actually put a multitude of these boxes together also?
Correct.
Okay. End to end, side by side?
And just side by side, as long as they're touching.
Okay, now probably the hardest question of the day for you. I notice this is almost a reddish pink color. This is a gray. This is almost a black color. Why is there so many colors? Because it's Christmas?
Because it is Christmas. We take a post-industrial scrap, of which there is an overwhelming amount right now, and our boards, when they come out of our machines, they're at 400 degrees. It is sterile when it leaves us, and the color of the final product is dependent upon what our feedstock is. So in other words, if we had a very, very red plastic that's been dyed clear through, it won't be red, but it'll be something of that color, sort of a light purple there. But generally you can get Hydro Blocks in any color you want as long as it's black.
Okay, sorry for the tough question. Now, I just want to show you another piece of machinery that we have over here. If we have some different equipment that we could actually use for installing the HydroBlock panels, if we could take a look. I mean, the machine that you saw, we were initially using today is a very large, and for some homeowners, it maybe is, scary to be looking at a piece of machine if they're doing it themselves compared to hiring a contractor or something to do it. So the HydroBlock panels, they don't weigh a whole lot, but if a homeowner has a small amount to do, there's multiple ways that they could do it, from a pick-and-a-matic to small trenchers to the larger trenchers. Does it matter for the install or the operation of the boards?
No, it'll function the same way. As long as you get it 3 inches below the surface, we're fine either way. For a very, very small installation, yes, something like this is fine. For something a little bit larger like we have here, the piece of equipment you saw earlier is ideal. And probably not as difficult to use as you might think.
No, but pick and shovel are going to do the same thing, isn't it?
Yes, you could certainly do that.
Okay. As far as the boards itself, as far as the install or something, it's not something that you have to get done in one day. It's something that a homeowner doing it themselves, just like if they're installing a pipe, they could take a day, a week, a month, or whatever to do the jobs.
That's true. Yes.
Okay. Depth of it, is it? You're saying the board is 9 inches and you're going like a foot below, 3 inches of soil. Can you go deeper? Can you double the boards? Can you go shallower? Can it be surface? What are the parameters?
You can double the width. You can go all the way down to 18 inches below grade. And we see that during golf course installations, because they will aerate and deep tine down there, and they just want to make sure they don't hit the boards. The reason we want to have at least 3 inches of cover on top is because you're giving the water a path of least resistance. So in other words, if you have the board where it's actually sticking up like that, it's easier for the water just to run through and then just come back up to the surface. And we want to make sure we're moving it in a different direction, wherever that may turn out to be.
Okay. Like it's December. Is this going to freeze? What happens in the winter?
The very same thing. The first thing we had done was we had 40 cycles of freeze thaw down at 28 below zero. The water will freeze. It will not damage the Hydro Blocks at all. It would be the very same application, for the French drain that was 4 feet below grade. If the soil freezes, no water's going anywhere at that point.
Okay. Well, how about houses? Foundation. Okay, our install today, we were moving the boards about 3 feet or so away from the side of the house itself. Can we install this right up next to the foundation?
If you're going to install it right up against the foundation, you do have to make sure that wall is sealed, because keep in mind, you're giving the water a much easier path to follow. Typically, we like to see it somewhere between the drip line, which is the edge of your roof, somewhere between that and where the actual foundation is. So you want to have it away from that wall if at all possible.
Okay. But if it's not possible, you can install it?
You can install it, just make sure that wall has been sealed from the outside.
How about new construction?
New construction, you would just simply run it, probably 18 inches off the wall. You would put legs out into the yard where you would want the water to go, and that's it. Job done.
Okay, I want to go back to the wall, and let's talk about some, retaining walls now, because I know HydroBlock can be used for walls itself. So here we have the sample sitting on a wall itself, but a lot of times when somebody is building a beautiful wall like this, they've cut this back 2 feet, and there's pipe behind here and gravel and all that. Why can't I use HydroBlock, putting it right up against this beautiful wall?
You could do that. You would just want to make sure that when you put it in behind there, you're going to want to daylight it. And by that we mean give that water some place to move from out underneath all of this block. HydroBlock is certainly going to catch it, okay, and you're just going to make sure you direct it either downhill or allow a relief point in that wall, and that's typical construction.
Okay, with this wall itself, it's only 1 block deep down here at the end, but you're a good 8 blocks deep at the top. So when we're up at the top of the wall, is the entire height of the wall HydroBlock from the bottom up, or are you just doing it at the top?
You would just run it down 2 courses. You would run it down 2 courses down there, and then just allow it to exhaust down there, and then you would not have that problem where you would have to daylight it. You can see in this wall, there's no opening at all for the water to escape anywhere. Everything is meant to go in that direction.
Okay, so the block is not down to the driveway. You only have to have it 2 block down over the course of the entire wall.
Now the water is coming from the surface.
Now, is it the same basis, though? The HydroBlock is going to work better than gravel and pipe on this wall?
Correct, and just a lot easier to install, and again, lower cost.
All right, guys. Fascinating. I mean, I just absolutely loved what we're doing. I'm fortunate to have some amazing friends and workers here to do this. I mean, we're talking 300 feet of HydroBlock in 3 hours were installed at this house. This house is going to be protected now forever from water. For the history of this house, it's never going to come in. But, we started from noodles, going to the boards, going to the boxes. Thank you for being here with BPTV. Thank you for this demonstration, and we look forward to our next project. Any closing thoughts there, Kathy?
I want to thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you so much for all you do. And what's my tagline? Go HydroBlock.
Go HydroBlock, Ed.
I appreciate the time and the opportunity. This has been great.
Okay. We appreciate everyone tuning in to BPTV. I hope you've learned a lot today. I'm your host, Andy Amrine, and see you again soon.